Crowhill here. Today we review an IPA and discuss an English romance novella. Hey, good evening, Pick Cream.
Good evening,
Hey,
and what do you know?
Longinus
It's
is here
lunchtime.
too.
All
Right.
right. Very good. So, how about some beer and conversation?
Absolutely. So what's on your mind?
Churchill, Langford, Reginald,
Yeah.
Sir James Martin, and Frederica.
You got me thinking about World War II, but I see that it must be time for PNC's Shortcut to the Classics.
Oh, it is. It is, where we read great books by the world's great authors, provided that they aren't too long.
I see. That's right. And today, Pigweed has chosen Lady Susan by Jane Austen.
Yes, I have.
Yes, just to get in touch with your
And I have a little lady beer, apparently.
Okay, apparently, yes. So
Well.
this is called Dad Strength IPA, and it's kind of insulting that Dad Strength means 2.9%. But I was just very curious about this because I've frequently wanted to brew a low ABV beer to see if I could make something that was flavorful.
But that still
and worth
has
drinking.
all of the beer pleasure.
Exactly.
I would say that my head has dissipated rather quickly,
Yours
so I
did,
don't know
yes.
if that has anything to do with anything.
So the question
All
is
right.
to get in there
I
and
would
tell me if
say,
it's worth drinking.
go ahead, try it. I would say aroma-wise, it's on point, right? Mm-hmm. It does not taste like a lady beer.
No, it actually is a touch thin.
Yep.
It is a touch thin.
Yeah, it's got to be.
But it's only 94 calories.
Yes,
so.
it's going to be. Yeah, yes, 2.9. Now let's imagine you've got a full day's worth of drinking ahead of you,
Or you're working in the backyard.
Yeah.
You know, it's hot and sunny, and you're working in the backyard, and you want something light to drink. This is perfect.
You don't
Or
go.
you're fishing
You don't want to go swinging your scythe around
with a double IPA in your belly. No, so yeah. So actually, Dad Strength IPA. It is a little bit thin.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a sit around the fire read a book beer, but it is definitely a refreshing. What do you think, Jonas?
Yeah, it's refreshing. It tastes. It has more taste than light beer or Mick Ultra,
Yes.
but it has still that as you said, that thinniness, that body of a light
But
beer.
I would take it over a Mick Ultra all day long.
I would too. Yeah. You know, I only had a Mick Ultra like 3 weeks ago. I'd never had one.
Till Billy Bob Thornton inspired
Billy,
you?
Yes, Billy Bob Thornton inspired me to try a Mick Ultra. And I said, look, if he can drink one, I can drink one.
Well, he doesn't think it's beer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Fake beer.
Yeah. I'm not drinking anymore. What do you call that? You know.
That's not drinking.
All right. So,
right.
Lady Susan.
So, Jane Austen, born in 1775 and unfortunately died in 1817. That's only 41 years.
Yeah, that's rough.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
She died of they didn't know at the time, and they've since decided it was some sort of autoimmune disease that I'd never heard of. She never married. She, was a writer from a very, very young age, published her first things anonymously, and her big hits, Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, and Emma, or 1811, 1813, 1815. So now we're talking about, in her late 30s,
Right.
A mature woman of the world, who never married. But we have Lady Susan, written when she was only 18.
Yeah. This apparently was the first thing she wrote, but it wasn't published until after she died.
Yeah, so it was published in 1871. That's 60 years.
Wow.
After Sense and Sensibility, and interesting because it's very mature. I don't know.
Well,
I'm surprised this.
So I listened to a podcast where this woman was talking about this book, and she called it scandalous. So maybe that's why there was some delay in getting it published.
Yes, maybe. So I have not read the. I'm sure that there's no protagonist in the other big hits that are quite like Lady Susan.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the style. Let's do the style first, and then we'll get into the book itself.
Yeah. Okay.
So how do you say it?
Yeah. What's it called?
What?
Epistolary.
Epistolary.
So,
meaning?
and like, for example, St. Paul's epistles in the New Testament. So an epistle is a letter.
Right.
So an epistolary novel is a novel that's basically a bunch of letters.
Yes, I would. Right. So the plot is revealed not through a third-person omniscient narrator.
Yeah.
But through a series of letters, which seems to me very. a very developed style for it to be your first crack at writing.
It's an interesting approach, and what's particularly interesting about it from my perspective is it's hard to get across dialogue that way. Mm-hmm. Like if you're writing a regular novel and a bunch of people are sitting around and they're chatting and they're talking, it's very natural. But if you're writing a letter, how do you incorporate the dialogue that was going on into the letter?
There's a little bit of, and in the letter, and then she said.
Yeah, right.
But then again, too, a letter is a dialogue, right?
Sure.
You're so in that sense, but you're right. There's very little quotation marks in this book.
Yeah.
It's
What was the book that we read the whole book and never noticed that there was no punctuation in the whole book?
it's Melancholy Horse.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. If you do it right, you don't need them. I guess.
Yeah.
So what I found interesting about it is without the third person omniscient narrator that you can trust.
Yeah.
Everybody who's writing a letter has their own motivation.
Right.
And you're like, is she being honest here when she says that? And you get it right in the first two chapters where first Lady Susan is saying, "Oh, I cannot wait to come to Churchill. I just can't wait to see you, and I can't wait to see the grandkids. This is going to be fantastic."
And then she's saying, "Oh my gosh, I got to go."
I would go anywhere in England before I'd go to Churchill. You're like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here.
Yeah.
You cannot trust the first thing that comes out of it.
That actually was very interesting about this book is that you're right. You have to stop and look at who's writing to whom.
Yes.
And then you have to think, what is their position in this bunch of relationships between all these people? Like, who is this person, and what is their perspective?
In the next letter, they will cover the same incident.
Yeah.
But two different people are talking about it. You're like, all right, so what exactly happened here? Because I was under the impression that everybody was happy with the situation, and then
all of a sudden...
right, so you want to get into the characters and plots and stuff like
let's
that?
do that.
There?
Yeah.
So we have... so you have Lady Susan, who is recently widowed.
Yes.
4 months, and she is staying. She has just stayed with the in Langford with the Mannerings.
Yes. Where she caused a huge problem because she was flirting with the husband. She was flirting with two men, and apparently had an affair with one of them while she was at the house.
Yes. So she leaves. The Mannerings live in Langford. She leaves. She goes to.
Well, she desperately needs to go someplace, right? So she writes that really nice letter to
Apparently she's impoverished. She's a widow, but she has nothing.
Yeah, the brother. The husband didn't leave anything behind.
Apparently,
it was like the poor brother.
Yeah. So he left her nothing. So she's basically got to use her charms and her wit to find something.
and her beauty. I mean, she's absolutely beautiful, right?
Beautiful.
Yes.
So she leaves. So she goes to Langford and then wrecks the place like a tornado.
Right.
The Mannering's daughter is hoping to marry Sir James Martin, and she gets in there and blows that up because she wants her daughter to marry Sir James.
Yes.
So seduces the husband. So the wife's mad. The husband's horny. The daughter has just lost her best prospect.
Yeah.
And then she moves on to Churchill, which is her brother.
She's burned all of her bridges at that place.
It's her brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law, yes.
Brother-in-law.
Reginald is her dead husband's brother.
Right.
And his wife is Catherine.
Yeah.
And they are Vernons. And so she shows up there. And Reginald, and then first she's got quite a reputation.
Yeah.
And so Reginald says,
Well, wait a minute. Didn't Mrs. Vernon, Catherine Vernon, invite Reginald to come to, I don't remember exactly what her motive was, but she wanted him to be there. Yeah. I don't remember exactly why, but she wanted him to be there for some reason. And so he shows up, and he's like, man, I can't wait to meet the most accomplished flirt in England. Yes.
Yes, he's like, I gotta see this.
Yes.
So he shows up, then, about Frederica, she ships, I don't know what she has against her own daughter, but she really just has nothing nice to say about her.
Well, I think it just goes with the idea that she's so incredibly selfish that her daughter is just a problem to her.
Yeah, she wants to just marry her off and be done with her.
Yeah.
But right, and that's the best thing that she could do for her daughter is to find a husband that could take care of her monetarily and other ways.
And and the daughter does not like this Mr. James
At all.
So drops her off at boarding school, and apparently she's lacking in some education, so is a little bit older than the other kids, and for whatever for reasons I'm not exactly sure, she runs away, and then after their effort to get her put back in, she's kicked out.
Right.
So Lady Susan's whole mission here is to make Frederica so miserable at school that the prospect of marrying Sir James becomes like, well, at least that's better than school.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And isn't it because Sir James started going to the school that she ran away? Because
he shows up after she's kicked out. She's brought to Churchill,
right?
Yes.
And then he shows up.
Yes.
So everything is just going peachy, peaceful, and Lady Susan, after wrecking everything at Langford, shows up, which brings Reginald, which brings Frederica, and then that brings
Sir James.
Sir James, all of this drama.
Who just invites himself into the house.
Just invites himself. And nobody has any kind words for Sir James except for his money.
Yes.
And Frederica wants no parts of this.
Yeah.
Of this arrangement.
So she goes ahead. She swore to her mother that she wouldn't tell Catherine or Charles Vernon, her aunt and uncle,
Right.
That she doesn't want to marry Sir James.
Yes.
So she tells Reginald.
Yes.
And then and meanwhile Reginald and Susan are flirting.
And he's like, wait. So you kind of wonder about everybody's or the powers of Susan, of Lady Susan, or is it that people have the wrong impression because a lot of people change their impression of her. He's like, wait a minute, I heard all.
One important thing that we're missing here is that Sir Reginald, the older guy who's got a lot of money, Sir Reginald and Lady de Courcy, are scared to death that the younger Reginald is going to marry Lady Susan.
Yes.
They're afraid that he's going to get caught in her net, and they're desperately worried about this.
Yes.
And Lady Susan and Reginald are actually out, spending time
there's
together.
a lot of strolling in the gardens.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And she's her wiles are working, and he is.
Here's the thing.
I would not necessarily falling right away, but just like going, dang, you guys are all wrong about her. What a delightful woman.
Here's the thing that's so funny about this. There's this saying, to be forewarned is to be forearmed, right?
Okay.
So Reginald starts off knowing. Or having at least heard that she's this horrible flirt, that she's a coquette, that she's this miserable, manipulative woman. And he has this sort of detached, wow, I want to see this. I got to take notes, and then he goes there and falls into her clutches immediately.
Yes.
Which
just shows, the power of Lady Susan.
Yes.
That's right. That's right.
That
you can come in with a completely negative preconceived notion and walk away going, I don't know what everybody's so concerned about.
She is the rock that ships wreck on, and she's supposedly beautiful.
Right.
So in one place it says that she looks no older than 25, although she's probably at least 35
yes,
at the
she's
time.
probably 35.
So she's a very beautiful woman, but she's also incredibly manipulative and incredibly charming.
Yes.
And very good with her words. So she's just very good at manipulating everything on her behalf. Hey everybody, thanks for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill.
If you like the show, please review, recommend, tell a friend.
If you'd like to write to us at pigweedshow@gmail.com.
And if there's something you'd like to hear us discuss, please let us know, or you can just send us a beer. Well, let's bring in Mrs. Johnson.
Okay. Oh yeah, Mrs. Johnson we haven't talked about.
No. So
she's her partner in crime,
Right.
basically.
right. So
She's at the other end of the letter from Lady Susan. Lady Susan always writes a letter to Miss Johnson.
and those are the letters that you can trust.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You're like, okay,
Yes.
so this is what all these other letters. You're is this just part of her game?
Yeah.
To Mrs. Johnson, that
She's being straight. Yeah, all the other ones are probably BS, but when she's writing to
Yes.
Mrs. Johnson, they write very honestly to one another because they're both partners in this whole game of manipulating and getting their own way. So Mrs. Johnson is married to a much older Mr. Johnson who has the gout and desperately hopes that he's going to die.
He's not old enough to die, but he's too young to be anything else or something like that.
I remember the first time I read that, I thought of the Jethro Tull album, "Too Old to Rock and Roll, Too Young to Die."
Right.
That was Mr. Johnson. He was too old to be interesting and not sick enough to get out of her way,
but old enough to have gout.
Yes. That's right. Yeah, so Mrs. Johnson is Lady Susan's confidant, and they both scheme together.
Right. He says, he's like, gosh, Alicia, I can't believe you're stuck with this old guy, right?
Yeah.
Marry a man of his age, just old enough to be formal, ungovernable, and to have gout, too old to be agreeable, and too young to die.
Yes.
So that's just the callous nature.
Yes, right.
Just to say that to your best friend, like, God, you won't even have the decency to die.
I know. Come on. Yeah.
And so
that's her husband, right?
It's her husband. So she wants to. They have this agreement that she's going to go to London.
Lady Susan.
Lady Susan's going to go to London and stay with Miss Johnson because he's going to go to Bath to go to some spa.
Right. Yeah.
And deal with his gout and whatever. He gets wind of it.
And he doesn't go.
And he said, no, I don't want you around that woman.
But Lady Susan is going to London so that she can be with Manwaring.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, and prior to that, of course, is when De Courcy, Reginald, confronts Lady Susan about Frederica.
Yeah.
And that's where the big spat comes.
Yes.
And then Reginald threatens to leave, but actually doesn't. And that sort of spoils Lady Susan's time.
There's this great scene where, so you're right. Frederica asks Reginald to intervene with her mother to say, look, I can't marry this idiot James Martin. So he does that, and then they have this big spat. And then Reginald goes to his sister-in-law and says, look, I'm out of here. And, it's time for me to leave. And Lady Susan comes in and goes, oh, did he say that? He'll change his mind, And then she changes his mind.
And she's
like this.
already written a letter saying Reginald's leaving, thank God. And then writes another letter 5 minutes later, like, oh, he's not going. He spent 5 minutes in the room with Lady Susan. Now he's not going.
Right.
Because just worried to death that
Yes.
they're
because
going
Lady
to marry.
Susan can manipulate a man like nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty remarkable. So then she goes to London. And she's trying to arrange, so she's trying to marry Reginald. She's trying to get married to Reginald and marry Sir James to her daughter Frederica.
Right. But she acknowledges that Mannering is so much hotter than Reginald. And so she discourages him from
While she's
coming.
in London, she's meeting with Mannering every day.
Yes.
Yes. And she finds out that Reginald is going to, surprisingly shows up on her doorstep. She makes up some excuse to get rid of him, sends a letter to her partner in crime, Alicia Johnson, saying, keep Reginald busy for a while. I've got Mannering
I got
here
some
with
things
me.
on.
Yeah, and then
He finds out.
He finds out. It all comes out that she's been meeting Mannering in secret, and then Reginald is upset, and he says,
All right, it's really over. And then Catherine Vernon writes the ecstatic letter. She says it is about the fact that it's over. It's totally over.
Yeah.
The mother writes back, "This is the greatest day of his life since he was born."
Yeah, that's
Right.
right.
When he was born was the greatest thing. This is the second greatest thing.
So Reginald goes back to Churchill, right?
Yeah.
And starts flirting with Frederica.
Yes.
So they start to have a relationship.
Yes.
And at the end, Lady Susan actually gets together with Sir James.
Yeah, so the strange thing is the woman. Okay, so Frederica was supposed to marry Sir James, and Lady Susan was supposed to marry Reginald in Lady Susan's mind.
Right.
Yeah.
But the opposite happens.
Yep.
She marries Sir James, and Frederica marries Reginald.
Yes, but this event all comes in this bizarre conclusion.
Yes.
Which
It doesn't fit.
Thank you. It's like all of a sudden we've got a third-person narrator saying, and so they stopped the post office stopped delivering letters. So let me tell you what happened.
Right.
Well,
Where does this?
Yeah.
But you got I mean, this was the first novel she wrote, and she
it's
never
almost
got
like she got tired of it.
Exactly. And she probably felt like, I don't know how to
maybe didn't
resolve this
finish it.
through a letter, so I need some other way to.
But you know what what you could have done is start with the narrator and going, you know what? I was going to tell you the story of Lady Susan, but you know what? It's probably better if we just reveal it in letters.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? And then you circle back in the end and you wrap it up.
That would have been more.
Right? Because this is like, who's talking here?
Yes.
Right.
But you're right.
Lady Susan probably didn't intend to have this published, right? It was published in 1870.
You mean Jane Austen?
Jane Austen, right.
Yeah, right. I mean, this is probably just like an exercise for her. She's just like learning how to write.
Sure.
Because I think one of these, the next one is I think Sense and Sensibility started out in this.
That's right, as letters.
In this epistolary.
Well, that's what the scholars think, right?
Right.
Banner, but she was like, this isn't working, and then just changed to straight prose. So maybe that's what maybe this is just an example of it, just early work
right.
and
But
otherwise, it's
I'm not a fan.
finished.
Yeah, I'm not a fan though of the letter format, the epistolary.
Epistolary, yes.
But I mean,
That
it
would be
was.
apostle.
But her prose was absolutely wonderful,
it was great.
beautiful.
It's flowery.
Yeah.
It's flowery and it's a little difficult, but it's the kind of language
It's
that
late
you
18th
have
century.
to read carefully. And you don't just breeze through it. It's not written for a fifth grader.
It's not. It's not right. It's not unique to her. It's unique to the time. Billy Budd was hard to read.
Yes.
And that's but for that same reason, just very dense language.
That's right.
And
There were some really great quotes in here. One of my favorite is, "Where there is a disposition to dislike, a motive will never be wanting. And when people are determined to quarrel, the very best manner can only offend them." I thought that was pretty good.
I think she has a not only a sense of language, but a sense of relationships.
Yeah, how old was she when she wrote this? 18?
Right. Like
How many 18-year-olds have that
put themselves in the position of a 35-year-old
Right.
widow?
So here's the big question, or a question.
Okay.
A big question. Does Jane Austen have sympathy for Lady Susan, or is she writing the anti-hero? Is she putting in one character all of the negative characteristics of?
That's an interesting
19th
question.
Because I have to say, I have here. Do we have a sympathetic protagonist?
Right.
Because you have to care about the protagonist. Can't just be a bad person altogether. You have to root for them in some sense, or they're not the protagonist. So
It's a very interesting question
But
because I haven't read enough Jane Austen to say this for sure. But it seems to me that she's always picking on women.
Well, that's what she do. I mean, she is.
Yeah,
I mean, that was her forte.
She's
that
usually
setting.
making fun of silly women, and by making fun of silly women, giving sound advice on relationships, and saying, "Look, you can't be this way. You've got to be
Right.
doing something."
And it's also a social commentary on the role of women, and where they're so constricted by 18th century society.
But she's not. I mean, but Lady Susan is
totally free.
Is strong
Yes.
and in charge,
Right.
and not manipulated by anyone.
Yeah.
And so, in some ways, she's kind of a feminist girl boss.
Yeah. So listen to this quote. "I'm tired of submitting my will to the caprices of others, of resigning my own judgment in deference to those who claim to know better." That's
right, but that's what society expected
Expects.
of her.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, and
Right.
so she's heroic in her pushing back
Yeah.
against the gender roles, and the men are just it's the men who are silly. falling over themselves
Some
and
men.
being manipulated
So
by her.
It's interesting. Yes, there are some men who are complete comical characters, like Sir James. He's just an idiot.
Yeah.
And Reginald is somewhat of an idiot. But some of the other male characters, like Mr. Johnson, is actually a very sensible fellow.
Right, but Mr. De Courcy, he's like, why you? He's was taken by her.
Yes,
he was like, what is everybody
the younger
talking
Mr.
about?
De Courcy, but not Sir Reginald De Courcy. He was the one who was like, don't you have anything to do with that woman? She's bad news. So
but even he comes to her after talking to her. He's like, well, maybe she's not as bad as you think. When the wife is going, we have to keep this woman away from my brother. So I like this one here. This one here. This is towards the end when she just before she's. You can see her being manipulative, and then here she just lays it out. She says, I must punish Frederica, and pretty severely, too, for her application to Reginald. I must punish him for receiving it so favorably,
right.
and for the rest of his conduct. I must torment my sister-in-law for the insolent triumph of her look and manner since Sir James has been dismissed, and for reconciling Reginald to me. I was not able to save that ill-fated young man, and I must make amends for the humiliation to which I've stooped within these few days. So she's just got a war plan laid out. Like this is the damage I need to do while I'm here.
She sits around scheming and planning, and actually is quite brilliant. She understands what strings to pull and how to pull them.
Which is how she is somehow a favorable protagonist.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That she's not an evil creature that you're rooting against. You're like, ooh, let's see what she can, what can she get away with? Which is a very bold move for an 18-year-old to take on this unsympathetic, or is she powerful boss lady as her protagonist? I don't know if in Sense and Sensibility or in Pride and Prejudice or any of those you have. I know the protagonist isn't like Lady Susan, but there must be characters of her type.
Well, this made me want to read Sense and Sensibility.
Yeah, I read Emma, and I've watched some Jane Austen movies, but I haven't read a whole lot of Jane Austen. Yeah. But this was actually quite enjoyable. I liked the back and forth. I liked the manipulation. I liked looking at things from different perspectives. I thought that was very clever. And
it's nice. It's nice and tight. This is why P&C's shortcut to the classic was developed.
Yeah,
it is to give you a writer that usually writes long stuff.
Yeah,
you read their short stuff, and so that you get a sense of how they write, what topics they favor.
Yeah,
and you get a taste of them. And then you have the opportunity, if you like it enough.
If you like it enough, go read some of the long stuff.
But at least you know that when you say to somebody in conversation, my gosh, that guy's romantic life has all of the trappings of a Jane Austen novel. You're not just making it up.
You know at least a little bit.
You know at least something.
That's right.
You actually say, have you read in Jane Austen? Yes, I have.
So back on the wall here is our library of shortcuts to the classics. I should make a page.
Yes.
I should make a page with an index of all of our shortcuts to the classics.
Yes,
so
I mean it's quite an impressive list.
It's quite a
now,
list. Yes.
I will say that when we talked last, I said, we haven't done a romance novel, and we haven't read any women. Well, I was totally wrong. Who are the three other? This is actually the fourth one.
Frankenstein.
Right.
And Ethan Frome. Who did Ethan?
Yes, Edith
Wharton.
And who's the other one?
You got me.
All right. Here's my clue. Neil Peart.
Ayn Rand.
Yes, of course.
Yes, we did that. Yes. So in my mind, I'm going, gosh, it's been 4 years we haven't read any women. No, we've read 4 women.
Yeah, right. Yeah. All right. So Jane Austen. This is a good one. If you've never read Jane Austen, give Lady Susan a try. It's short and just take a couple hours.
Yeah.
And there are some good, Chirp Books is a great place to get audiobooks, and you can just listen to it as well.
Oh, wait a minute. The movie Love and Friendship.
Oh, yeah.
Is this book.
Yes.
I don't know whether some reason they decided to have a different title.
Yes.
The one thing that's consistent with it is there's a lot of letters going on, right? There's people writing letters, handing letters. So letters play a big part. I think that was a great director's choice.
Yes.
my favorite thing is that, they say show don't tell, right? Yeah. In the book, you're told that James Martin is a boob.
Yeah, yes.
In the movie,
he just is a boob.
They really flesh him out.
Yes.
I mean, you just see him as being really quite a ridiculous. Yes. I mean, he's my favorite character in the movie.
Yeah.
He is so ridiculous. And Mrs. Johnson is an American.
Right. Yes.
And I went back to the book. I'm like, I can't believe I missed that.
Yeah.
No.
And Mr. Johnson threatened to send her back to Connecticut or something.
Yes, to Connecticut. I had a PDF of it, and I did a PDF search for the words Connecticut and American, just to make sure I didn't miss something. No, she's not an American in the book, but she definitely is.
She definitely is
in the movie. Yeah. And the ending is great because in this conclusion, it's just like one sentence, and she married Mr. Martin.
Right.
In the movie, there she is, married, pregnant, and Mr. Mannering is living with them.
Yes, kind of dragged along as a friend.
As a friend, he's like, he's such that boob.
And James Martin is such an idiot.
He's such an idiot. He's such an idiot. He's like, oh my gosh, this guy is a delightful conversationist and loves hunting. I mean, we were just getting along so well. And she told James the day after their wedding night, I'm pregnant. And James is like, and guess what? She was.
She was. Amazing.
And the baby was born a month early. So I think those were the three takeaways for me. That the movie was very good.
It was. Who played Lady Susan?
Beckinsale.
Kate Beckinsale. Yes.
She was very good. She's beautiful, and it was a good choice. Yeah. Yes. But otherwise, it stuck very closely to. Yeah.
It was a good movie. I enjoyed the movie. So give it a try. Lady Susan, Jane Austen. Right. Cheers. Thanks so much for listening to Beer and Conversation with Pigweed and Crowhill. Remember to visit us at pigweedandcrowhill.com or send us an email at pigweedshow@gmail.com.